Hello, listeners. It's the Known and Never podcast. We are back again. It's another Friday night ahead of another championship fixture for the mighty Clarets. I'm joined this week by regular statistician Dave Roberts, and we are joined by our very special guest, our Sheffield Wednesday fans. It's been a couple of weeks. We've let you off lightly, but it's time to get back to business, listeners. So, buckle up. Let's go. Good evening, team. How are we? I'm going to leave you for a minute, Dave Roberts. I'm going to bring in our very special guest. We are welcoming our Sheff Wednesday Jess Games from, oh gosh, I've forgotten it already. WTIDP pod. Go on, tell me.
It's the Wednesday Tie-Dye podcast.
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah, I felt the pressure then. I was like, I remembered it before it came on air, and then I went, oh gosh, it's all abbreviated. James, welcome to the show. It's really lovely to have you here.
Yes, thanks for having me on. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, of course, no problem. You're going to tell us all about Sheff Wednesday. We're going to get to know our latest opposition. But in the meantime, we're bringing back our favourite statistician, the best view in football, according to his own stats. Dave, how are you, sir?
I must clarify, it is the view of from Turf Moor, not me.
No, it's not. You should have known by now, after all the years you and I have worked together, that I was not going to let you get away with that. Dave, how was your international break? Did you put your feet up? Anything nice?
Yeah, just quiet one really. Just ready to get back into it. We've had 2 international breaks already. They seem to have come very quickly.
Yeah. And there's another one coming up as well in November, which feels excessive. I'm not going to lie. Well, let's not go on about international breaks because we have got a job to do. We need to introduce our wonderful guest, and we're going to learn all about Sheff Wednesday. Dave, do you want to kick off the previous show this week, please, with our 2 facts?
Yeah, we've got a couple of stats to kick us off. Although Sheffield Wednesday have played at Hillsborough since 1899, they used to play their home games at a ground known as Olive Grove. That was located near to Bramall Lane. Our first 7 visits to play the Wednesday, as they were then known, were at Olive Grove, and resulted in 6 Burnley defeats and just 1 Burnley win. That was in 1893. One of Burnley's biggest matches at Hillsborough was just over 50 years ago, but wasn't against Sheffield Wednesday, but Newcastle United in the FA Cup semi-final. That was in March 1974. That day ended in disappointment for the travelling Clarets fans, as 2 second-half goals from Malcolm McDonald settled the tie and sent the Geordies to Wembley to face Liverpool, although they did go on to lose that final 3-0.
They did. Well, they're slightly weird stats to set us off there. I always wonder when we start our preview show, and it's like, well, Burnley haven't beat Sheff Wednesday for X amount of time. I think, oh God, here we go. Let's not dwell on them. Let's bring in our guest, shall we? James, I'm going to start off this week's preview show by taking you back to last season. I think let's have a reminisce. You finished last season in 20th. You managed to avoid relegation and survived for another season in the Championship. Now, given how it was looking towards the back end of that season, am I right in assuming that actually you were relatively pleased with where you finished at the end?
Well, considering that the first 10 games were absolutely awful. It actually took us 13 games to get his first win last season. I think that's some sort of record in the Championship. It was, we try and forget those first 10 games. We had Cisco Munoz as manager. He came in the summer of last season. People would have probably known him from his Watford days, getting Watford promoted to the Premier League. He didn't do anything of the like with us. We had Darren Moore. Obviously, we got promoted the season prior to that.
You did.
A miracle at Hillsborough, 4-0 down in the playoffs. Then that last gasp goal.
That was incredible. Was incredible. Yeah.
The last gasp goal at Wembley as well, the 123rd minute to get promoted. So everything was on a high. And to go from the highs of winning promotion via the playoffs to the lowest of the lows, that's how it felt in the first 10 games. But
Takes the excitement off, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and I can't believe how the morale can just change in the fan base in such a short space of time.
The season we had last year, believe me, we know.
Yeah. But Cisco went probably 10 games too late. He went on after the 10th game. And then Danny Röhl came in, which absolute breath of fresh air. He's got certainly got the pedigree. It's his first managerial job, but he came from the German national side as assistant manager to Hansi Flick. He was at Bayern Munich with Hansi as well. Before that, he was at Southampton as assistant manager. He's also been through the Red Bull Leipzig route as well. So he's young. I think he's 35 years old, same age as me, and he's front foot, young attacking manager, playing football in, let's say, quote unquote, the right way, so to speak. But he's certainly got an idea. He talks a lot about his principles, and last season, I think I could have done a better job than Xisco Munoz. So that's how bad he was. But Danny Röhl came in. We've taken to him. I've never seen a fan base take to a manager so quickly. And we had some hammerings last season as well. 6-0 against Ipswich, 4-0 against Huddersfield, 4-0 against Southampton, 4-0 against Millwall. There's some big beatings there. But still,
consistently big beatings can really get you down in the dumps as well, can't they?
Yeah, but they all came under Danny Röhl as well, and you wouldn't have thought it the way that we act around him, because he got some good wins as well. Blackburn, which I'm sure you'd be delighted to hear. Yes. The 3-1 win. I'm sure you was all laughing at that own goal that they scored when we played them last season. Yes.
Hilariously so. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take much for us to laugh at our neighbours, but when somebody hands it to us on a plate, it's even better.
Exactly, and that was the first time that we got out of the relegation zone last season. It felt like every time we won, the teams around us won. Yeah, and we just couldn't. Yeah, we just couldn't get out of the bottom three, but we did. Obviously, that game against Blackburn. I think there was only 2 more games left in the season, and we managed to stay up by the skin of our teeth. And do you know what? I keep saying this. I want a season like Bristol City, and by that I mean 12th. Just sort of mid-table, because the last 4 seasons have been relegation when we had the points deduction out of the Championship. Then we had a failed promotion bid in League One when we lost to Sunderland. Then obviously we got promoted, and that was a tale in itself. Most points total for a team that didn't get promoted automatically. Obviously went up via the playoffs, and then we've had the relegation battle last season. I had hair, believe it or not, 4 seasons ago. But it's so stressful. I just want a boring season. Mid-table. Let's have it all done. 4 or 5 games before the end.
You want to be pitching higher than that, James? You want to have a run at the playoffs? Never mind a boring mid-table side.
We can have that, but that'll come next season. I just want a steady season. I just want some.
You talk about that. You talk about having a nice steady season. We're already really bored of our 0-0. So let's, we're never happy, are we? We're never happy as fans. So I think turning to your manager then, I mean, obviously he's impressive and he's impressing as well at the same time. I guess what are the expectations of him? Because I know that you want to have a better season than you had last season. You want to steady that ship, but that can't be the long-term aim. So I guess from a fan perspective, what are his short-term expectations and what are the long-term expectations, and what does he need to do, particularly this season, to stay, as your manager, I guess?
I think it's good to have a manager that's got a plan. That is the first thing. He's coming in, he said that, it's not just going to be a quick fix. It's going to take, multiple transfer windows, which is quite refreshing to hear, because, his plan is, by the sounds of it, to stay at Sheffield Wednesday. I think, I think we just need to. We've had so many managers in the recent times.
I saw that when I was looking.
We change them, seemingly every season, and I think it's not healthy for the football club, especially when they've all got different ideas and different ways of thinking.
Yeah, I get that.
In terms of personnel changing, how often does it happen where a new manager comes in and the excuse is, well, these aren't my players. They play a different style of play to what I'm used to. So I think really as long as we see steady improvement, I think he'll I think more, Wednesday fans are more than happy to keep him as manager. I mean, we nearly got promoted back in 2016, but then we've had the points deductions and the embargoes and relegations and all things like that. And I think we just want something. You said there, steady the ship. I think that's exactly what we need to do. And we just need to, if we're seeing improvements, which we are seeing at the moment on the pitch, all right, this season has not started fantastically, but the performances of late have been all right. Yeah, well, certainly better than last season.
Well, it's 15th with 11 points on the board already. It's not bad, that.
Yeah, so it's okay. I mean, look, the first game of the season was amazing against Plymouth, and I think everyone's expectations went up a couple of notches. All right, the next 3 games after that,
football fans.
Exactly. We got brought down a couple of pegs or two, which I think is what was needed. To be fair, because I think we were getting a bit carried away with ourselves and thinking that we could get into the playoffs or even automatic promotion, but like you said, we get a bit ahead of ourselves sometimes, don't we? So I think it just needs to keep doing what he's doing. I think he's still learning. As I mentioned last season, there were some heavy defeats, that probably down to his naivety. I think the way that he wants us to play, we can't, because we haven't got the personnel. He has had to change his system. It all clicked in that opening game of the season, but the next 3 we were absolutely terrible. But he's realised that, and we've changed formations now, and it's no surprise that since he's done that, the performances and then now the results have started to improve. Yeah.
Well, we'll come on to that in the second half of the show, because I'm intrigued to see how you think you'll line up and how you'll play. Dave, let's have a quick look back at a good fixture that we've had away at Sheffield Wednesday, please. What have you picked for our memory match this week?
For No Nay Never Remembers this week, there was plenty of choice for suitable games, but the one we've chosen is from the opening day of the 2001-2002 season. It was one of the first matches shown on the opening weekend of that campaign on the ill-fated ITV digital channel. It was Sunday, the 12th of August 2001. And in terms of the game, remind me, Natalie, do we have any contributions for this from our team, or are you going to hear my views on the game?
But I was at that game, and I remember that game because I just bought my first ever car. Before then, I'd always driven my dad's car, and it was the first weekend that I picked up my first ever car of my own. And it was like me and my dad are always trying to get around my mum and say we're going to the game, and we managed. It was early in the morning. It was pay on the gate at the time. We could just go as an away fan and pay on the gate. And I'd picked my car up, and we manipulated this to say to my mum oh, isn't it a really good opportunity to give my new car a run around? We'll drive it up to Sheffield. Burnley are playing at 4:00, and we'll go. It's only an hour and a half away, so Burnley. And my mum fell for it hook, line and sinker. Oh yeah, that's a really good idea. So we went, and it was my first ever visit to Hillsborough, which I have to say was incredibly moving and an experience for any football fan. And I think it's a ground that everybody should go to and pay their respects and to experience. It was a very, it felt very strange to be in that ground. But I was at that game. So what were your memories, Dave?
Well, I was at the game too, but I wasn't anywhere near you, because I was with a good friend of mine who was a Sheffield Wednesday fan. Sadly, no longer with us, Paul Varley. But I was in the Sheffield Wednesday end. So that was an interesting one.
You broke the rules. You never break the rules. What is going on? You're sitting in the home end.
What do you mean?
You never break the rules. You're that little thing. But I do remember that. Do you remember that game at all, James?
I don't, but when you started saying the opening game of the season, I was thinking, why are you picking a 4-1 defeat in 2008?
I know.
Ouch. You know what? It was going so well.
But you know what? That's in the 2008, that season, you got promoted that season, and you beat our dear neighbours at Wembley as well. So
yes, we do. I think we'll always be endeared to that. Yeah, that was a stressful end to the season. It was a stressful season all round. Actually, was that one? But
we do mention that later.
There we go.
Ooh. Dave, you little tease.
Briefly.
Little tease. Okay, excellent. Well.
Are we coming back to this game? Then we're going to tell our listeners about what happened. The first half was goalless, so the match came to life after the break. Gareth Taylor, a former Blade, headed Burnley into a 57th minute lead. That was from Gordon Armstrong's cross, and then Burnley were awarded a penalty. Paul Cook took it. It was saved, but the referee ordered a retake. It sparked a mini pitch invasion. One Wednesday fan confronted Paul Cook. Stan Turnett came onto the pitch. It all got a little bit messy, but he eventually netted with the retake, and Burnley won the match 2-0.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I do remember it. I don't remember it being as feisty as that in the second half.
It
I remember
was,
being quite
yeah.
I remember it being a dull first half.
I can remember in that game because we had Chris Stringer in goal. Was this the second game of the season? I think it was.
It was the opening weekend.
No, it was the opening weekend. I'm sure it was. Yeah.
Was it? Because we had Chris Stringer in goal, and I'm sure that's because Kevin Pressman. I'm sure we played Wolves on the opening day of the season. I might be getting it wrong because
maybe a pre-season friendly, maybe.
No, because Chris Stringer wouldn't have been playing in goal because it would have been. It would have been Kevin Pressman, but I remember he got a red card. I think it's the fastest ever red card I think it's like 8 seconds, 9 seconds or something like that.
Do you know what? Can we fact check Dave? Because I love it when Dave gets a fact. It doesn't happen very often, but when he does, I do not let it go.
I was just looking at the lineup there, and I'm like, why is Chris Stringer in goal? Because he was terrible. He was awful goalkeeper
Dave,
that we had.
Was it actually the second game of the season and not the opener? Please be wrong.
I don't know. I have to check that later, won't I?
Well, I'm going to check it while you give us Section 2's first next two stats, please.
And on to our next stats. Our biggest away defeat at Hillsborough. So it's not all one-way traffic for this, James, for the facts. That was our penultimate match of the 1966-67 season. Future Clarets manager, 20-year-old Stan Turnett, made his Burnley debut that day, and Sam Ellis, who later became Burnley assistant manager under Stan, was in the Wednesday team. Former Burnley player, captain and manager Alan Brown was the Wednesday boss. Burnley-born Jack Whittam was the second half substitute for Wednesday and scored twice for the Owls in a 7-0 win. He might have had a hat-trick, but in the closing minutes, a penalty was awarded, and Jim McCalliog chose to take it himself, but the penalty was saved by Harry Thompson. In recent times, Burnley have had a good away record at Hillsborough since the turn of the millennium. Our last 10 visits have produced 5 Burnley wins, 3 draws and just 2 defeats. Following an embarrassing 4-1 away defeat on the opening day of the 2008-9 season, which saw us concede twice inside the first 4 minutes, Burnley are actually unbeaten on our most recent 3 visits, drawing 1 and winning the last 2.
Excellent. James, I'm sorry to break it to you, but Dave is in fact right.
I've seen it was a season before.
You played Wolves, yes.
I don't know why Chris Stringer's playing in goal, though.
Yeah, it's very strange. Very strange. But there you go,
wonder
Dave.
Dave,
you stand to live another day. I'm afraid we can't.
Thank you very much.
I have to find something else to tease you about this week.
1-0 to Dave, then I guess.
Please don't encourage him, James. Please don't. He has enough. We don't need to encourage him. James, back to you then. Let's get back into this. So let's bring you right back up to date and let's look ahead to this weekend. You've talked a little bit about the start to the season. You're doing all right. You talked about the style of play that Danny Roller's brought to the club. From a personnel perspective, who can we expect to cause us some problems at the weekend? Who should we be looking out for?
Well, the obvious one is always Barry Bannon, in it really. Like I can't think you can come on here and not talk about him. But everyone knows about him. He's been at us for a long time. I do think we take him for granted, though. To be honest, we expect so much of him every single week, and his kind of 9 out of 10 performances, we probably only see him as a 6 or a 7. Really, we just become that accustomed to him, and the amount of creativity that he can produce and stuff like that. I mean, last season he probably he didn't score enough goals. He's already got 2 goals already this season, and decent goals as well against QPR in the last minute, which incidentally took the lead and then couldn't hold on to it, funnily enough, and then he got a goal against Luton, which again on the wrong side of a 2-1 defeat there. But yeah, he's certainly one to look out for. Another one, Shea Charles. We had him. We've signed him on loan from Southampton. Southampton signed him for £10 million from Man City. He plays in that number 6 role, if you want to call it that, defensive midfielder. He's someone that since he's come in, he came in right at the end of the transfer window, so he missed the opening couple of games. But since he's come in, he's just allowed Barry Bannon to play a lot further forward, which is always a bit of a criticism of Barry. He does drop quite deep, and he's one of those players that tries to do it all. If things aren't going his way, he will drop to try and pick the ball up, and he's not really effective there. So Shea Charles is someone that he can trust, and allow Shea Charles to do what he wants to do, which allows Barry Bannon to play a lot further forward. In terms of more attacking players, we've got Anthony Masaba and Jedi Gassama, who we signed in last summer. I do coin him speedboat no driver a little bit in terms of the really, really quick. Got a few skills, but they do lack a little bit in the final third. But then I think when I think about them, if they did have a lot in the final third, they wouldn't be playing for Sheffield Wednesday. We'd be playing a lot higher. So you do have to
we say that at times.
Yeah, you can't get too frustrated because, like I said, this won't be playing for us. So, but yeah, they're one that both of them very similar players. I think probably Masaba is the stronger of the two, but Gassama seems to get certainly this season anyway, scored a great goal against Coventry just before the international break. But yeah, they're ones that if they get on the ball, they'll look to drive at your fullbacks and get them turning the opposite way. They both get fouled a hell of a lot as well. Sadly, we don't make too much from the resulting free kicks, but they certainly can get you guys picking up a few yellow cards, definitely. And yeah, if you let them run at you, then they'll certainly look to cause a lot of problems.
In terms of style, then I guess how do you think you'll set up against us? We are certainly before the season we were favourites to go up. We still remain favourites up there, even though there's been a lot of changes to us and obviously change of manager and a massive change in personnel, but we are still one of the favourites and there's an expectation that we will be going for the title or at least automatic promotion. Will that change the way you play against us? Will you play maybe more defensive or, can we expect a more open and expansive style from you?
Sure, even though we're the home side, I do think, in recent weeks, since I said that we have changed the style of play, we have kind of given up a bit more possession and we have played a lot better as well.
Okay.
Kind of let the other team have the ball. Let's be strong in defence. Let's be tight at the back and frustrate the opposition. It's what we did against Coventry. We did that against West Brom as well. West Brom came to Hillsborough. We only had 31% possession, and it certainly didn't feel like that because I felt when we had the ball, we actually did something with it. Whereas West Brom just passed it aimlessly around the back and found it really difficult, to be honest. I know we went 2-0 up. They got 2 goals back, and it was squeaky bum time. But and I would have thought that West Brom would have gone to win that game, but it was we managed to get that 3rd goal and take the win. So we've switched to playing 3 centre backs. I don't think that's how Danny Roll actually wants us to play. I think he prefers to play with a back 4. But we have switched to a 3 centre backs. It's more of a 3-4-2-1, I want to say, or a 3-4-3. All the variations, nowadays it's one formation in possession, one formation out of possession in transition. It gets all complicated now, doesn't it? It's not gone are the days of 4-4-2.
I miss a 4-4-2 sometimes. I think there's a need for a good old 4-4-2.
Yeah, there is.
We're making this way overly complicated. And it's just like, I think modern football now, the side to side to side to side to side to side, and everybody needs to pass it 45 times before we start an attack. And then we get close to trying to try something and we have to make sure that we switch it because somebody else on the other side needs it. And I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah, well, we were like that at the start of the season. And whilst it looks good and we've scored a few goals from playing out from the back, he has been a bit more pragmatic and yeah, it's just been. I think we're just trying to be more effective with when we have got the ball, rather than just passing for the sake of passing's sake. Which from the bits that I've seen of Burnley, it looks like you try to pass teams to death and find it difficult to break teams down. So I don't expect
the
it to change.
defensive teams. Yeah, that's the thing that's been a problem for us. And regular listeners of the previous show will know we've talked about some previous episodes. I'm not going to overly labour the point for the sake of repetitiveness, but it's a challenge we've had this season. We've not been able to break down the sides that have come, like the weaker sides in the division who've just come and shut up shop and not even tried to beat us. It's been frustrating to watch because we've just not been able to find that breakthrough that we need. So from a selfish perspective, I kind of hope you do come out and attack us and run at us and play expansive football because that will work in our favour.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Swansea midweek. They're coming to us. I think that's probably more of a game where us fans would probably expect us to take the game more to them, whereas I think this game this weekend against yourselves, you're in the Premier League last season. So, all right, I know you didn't do great, but you've got your team on paper.
I mean, that's very kind.
your team on paper is far better than what ours is. So I think the mentality from us fans is going to be very similar to what it was against West Brom when they came. They were top of the league. They'd not lost a game all season. I think the mentality will still be the same in that we expect you to have most of the ball, and that is going to be the theme for the day. But I think hopefully we'll just accept that, and but we just need to make the most of the chances that we do create, because I think criticism certainly last season was that, all right, we didn't create a great deal, but when we did, we weren't putting the chances away. So it's certainly something that we need to start doing, because you're not going to give us that many chances.
No, we're not. We are defending very well. I think that's the thing. It's like we're a little bit. Our attacking flair has gone down significantly. We're certainly not going to be banging 4 and 5, goals past like we did at the beginning of the season. But we are defending very well. So I think we are making it difficult for teams to score against us. That's a positive one for us. Final point from you then, Dave. Aims for this season. What do you want to end this season? What will make you happy when the whistle blows in May?
I just want us to be better than we were last season. I don't want us in a relegation fight come the end. Look, if we can be flirting with the playoffs or something like that, I think that'd be fantastic. I said at the start of the season, 10th would be a good result, and then go for it next season. You have to, you can't run before you can walk. I think, if a miracle did happen, I mean, look, lightning doesn't strike twice. It has already with us. We've had 2 miracles in 2 seasons. I don't think we're going to have a third one. But if it did happen, I mean, look, I think Derby's record of the worst points tally in Premier League history would be threatened by us if we ever got there. So look,
we nearly threatened it last year for a while. We were very much looking at our shoulders, going, "Somebody remind me, what's that points talking again?" Like, ooh, heck.
Yeah, so I think realistically, look, if we can just get in a position where we can actually strengthen again, in the summer next season, and let's just, like you've said that word again, steadying the ship. I think that's exactly what we need to do, and just solidify ourselves as a championship football club once again. Really.
Excellent. No, that's really, really good. Dave, do you want to give us the key stats then ahead of this fixture? Let's bring us up to date.
We've got a results overview as well as one away win at Olive Grove, we've mentioned already, at Wednesday's former ground. Burnley have managed 13 away victories against the Owls at Hillsborough. Burnley's overall away record stands at played 51, won 14, drawn 11 and lost 26. And in terms of goals scored, Burnley have scored 52 and conceded 88.
Good stuff. Well, listeners, that is all from Dave this week in terms of stats. But of course, those of you who want to learn more about where Dave gets all of his information from, those of you who are watching this podcast on our YouTube channel, there's a visual on his screen right now showing you where you can check out Dave's stats from. But Dave, for those of us listening via their favourite YouTube subscription service, where do our listeners go to get some more stats and facts on the beloved Clarets, please?
Yeah, if you want to fact check any of the stats I've created, you can go to the short link. That's bit.ly/Burnley Stats QL. That's all in uppercase, Burnley Stats QL. The QL standing for quick links. And there are 16 quick links to the main pages. You can go in there and explore to your heart's content.
Love it. James, I love the precision by which stat people give their information out. Like Dave has to tell them it stands for short link. That's like, okay, thank you, Dave. Quick link, whatever it's called. That just shows how much I don't listen anymore. I zone out. Let's finish off then our preview with a couple of things, please, specifically to this week's fixture. Let's hand over to regular referee update, George Poole, please. He's going to give us the referee fixtures.
Hey up, Clarets. We know it's going to be a Roses battle on Saturday, but it's actually going to be a Lancashire-based referee who takes charge in the middle. Now, it's Michael Salisbury of Preston who will be refereeing his second Burnley game of the season and his 5th overall. The other 4 have resulted in 2 Burnley wins and 2 defeats, as well as a couple of home wins against Sheffield United in April 2023 and more recently against Cardiff City in our second league match of this season. Burnley have also suffered defeats under the stewardship of Michael Salisbury, and those were at home to Aston Villa in August 2023 and away to Everton a few months later in November. Both of those matches, of course, were in the Premier League. It should be an easier task, fingers crossed, on Saturday away at Sheffield Wednesday in the Championship. Now, his yellow card count now stands at 7 to Burnley players and just 4 to our opponents. But on the plus side, he's only ever given 1 red card in a match involving Burnley, and that was to Sheffield United's keeper, Wes Foderingham, who, you'll remember I made the quip earlier in the season, was the man termed League Two Wes, by Paolo Di Canio when he was at Swindon Town. Michael Salisbury is also the son of former referee Graham Salisbury, who refereed for the final time on the last weekend of the 2020-21 season, after more than 20 years as an official. He was the 4th official, was Michael, for his dad, Graham, on that day. So quite a nice way to end a lengthy refereeing career for Graham Salisbury. But let's see how his son, Michael Salisbury, gets on in the middle tomorrow. But until next week, fingers crossed, 3 points for the Clarets and safe travels to all those away fans who are making the trip.
Thank you, George. Up the Clarets indeed. And James, can we get a score prediction from you, please?
Can I have 2? Can I go with my head and my heart? Because they are going to be different. Because I can't come on here and say that we're going to get beat at home.
And I would absolutely, you can't say that. Yes. Do you know, in the Premier League, when we play City away, I predict a Burnley win because you have to back your boys. And I have full respect for that, James.
Exactly. So my heart is saying that we're going to make it 4 games unbeaten. You know, another win at home. I think it'll probably be a low scoring affair, and we'll nick it 1-0. I think really my head is saying that we've got another 2 games coming up where are probably more favourable fixtures against Swansea and Portsmouth.
Yeah.
I think Burnley are probably going to be too strong for us, and it might be the same scoreline, but the other way around. You might take it 1-0.
1-0. Dave, what's your prediction?
I'm wondering where the goals are coming from. I think we've struggled. we've scored once in the last 3 games, and that was from the penalty spot. We need to get some goals from somewhere. So I think, I don't know. I'm going to go for a 0-0 draw, and then I'm hopefully proved wrong in a positive way, in that Burnley will score goals and we'll remember where the net is.
That's not how it works, Dave.
Reverse logic.
Well, I'm going to bring back reverse psychology, but I'm going to do it properly. I'm not going to predict a draw, Dave, for goodness sake. I'm bringing back reverse psychology. Over the past few podcasts, I've been saying that Burnley were going to win 4-0, particularly against the sides at the bottom, like your Plymouths, Prestons, etc., etc. And that has resulted in some very depressingly boring 0-0 draws. So I'm going to not predict a 4-0. I'm going to say it's going to be a Burnley win, but it's going to be a 1-0 win on the basis that at some point we're going to have to find our scoring. But there's too much talent in that squad to not find the back of the net. So I'm going to say a narrow 1-0 victory to Burnley, which will then hopefully turn into a 4-0. So there you go. Listeners, you know the drill by now. Please tell us what you think the score prediction will be this coming week. While you're at it, you can either drop a comment in our channel below and let us know what the score prediction will be. If you're listening to this via the podcast, please do get in touch with us on social media. We want some score predictions, scorers, how they score. You know what to do by now. And while you are at it, why aren't you subscribing? If you aren't already, click that subscribe button via podcast or YouTube. Turn on notifications so you do not miss another episode of your favourite Burnley podcast. Right. What's next, Dave?
We've got a general talking point. This week, it's been announced, as we know, that former Chelsea manager, namely the German-born Thomas Tuchel, who was also Vincent Kompany's predecessor at Bayern Munich, has been appointed as the new manager of the England team. He's the 3rd permanent non-English manager we've had after Sven-Goran Eriksson and Fabio Capello. We're not counting Steve McLaren being... and his accent for that one. But should it matter what nationality the England manager is? And are the press out to destroy him before we see what he's capable of?
Yeah, probably, because it's English press. So, James, I guess a couple of questions from you. First and foremost, what was your reaction to Tuchel being the next manager, replacing Gareth Southgate? And secondly, are you in the slightest bit bothered that he's not an English manager?
Well, personally, German managers are absolutely fine.
Yeah, I agree.
because Danny Rill's German, so it would be very hypocritical of me to come on here and say that it isn't. To be honest,
yeah, no thanks, not for me.
But no, on a serious note, I think it's I think it's very strange how people have reacted to the fact that it is a German manager. There's no rule that says that the manager has to be English, so the FA are well within the rights to do so. And it's not like there was any other candidates out there that are good enough. I mean, the World Cup's going to be here sooner rather than later. You know, we all want to win that. I'm sure the press, the media, all want us to win as well. And we've got to put this, the blocks in place to do that. And I think when you look at Thomas Tuchel, where he's managed, I mean, look, you can go into it and say, he should have won the Bundesliga with Bayern Munich. He should have won Liga with Paris Saint-Germain. I don't think he did on both of those occasions, but but he's been at top clubs: Borussia Dortmund, Paris Saint-Germain, Chelsea, Bayern Munich. He's been working with the likes, the players, the same caliber of player that he's going to be working with at England. Yeah, I don't think you could really say that with Southgate or Lee Carsley or any other English manager that perhaps might be throwing their hat into the ring. So for me, I think it gives us right now. He's the only person really. He's the standout candidate that's available. I know everyone's been saying about Pep, but I don't think that's going to happen in a month for Sundays. To be honest,
I think it will eventually.
Possibly, but it's certainly not going to happen now. No. I think he's going to have to be out of a job for a little bit until he takes the England job. But so yeah, I'm more than happy with it. Like, at the end of the day, if we win the World Cup, nobody is going to bat an eyelid. Nobody's going to care that Thomas Tuchel is the manager. And if we're really getting caught up about the fact that we had 2 world wars with Germany back in 19 whenever it was, I think really we just need to get back into the modern day.
Get your head out of the clouds, please.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just nonsense. Yeah,
it's 2024.
It exactly. It's like how far back are we going here? I think the thing for me that gets me, I think German managers I'm a fan of anyway, and I think that certainly when you look at the German national team, there is an ability for German managers to get the job done when it comes to tournament football. But if we take go back to the Euros final when we played Italy, and we really struggled to actually convert that into a trophy. We came so close, but one of the deciding factors on the day was that none of the England team and the England manager had any experience of those really high-pressured finals. We've now got a manager who's used to that environment, and irrespective of results, that's not going to overface him. If he gets the World Cup final, it's not going to be, the occasion's not going to overwhelm him. And I think, I genuinely have no problem with the manager and the nationality of the manager. You don't tend to get, there's not a written rule that says that. What I am pleased about is that we've got a manager who's actually is in a good place in his career, who's taken over. I think what we've struggled with from a national coach perspective since the Champions League got as big as it has is that back in the day, the England manager's job was the pinnacle of a manager's career. So we had a really wide range of a big pool of candidates to pick from. Nowadays, the managers don't see a national coaching role as the pinnacle. They want Champions League. That's what they're going for. So the really top elite managers in the world, they're staying at club football to win the Champions League. So the pool of managers that you are looking at when it comes to the England manager's job are either managers who are never going to be at that level. Well, how are they going to deliver a World Cup on that stage? Or it's managers at the very end of their career and then their retirement years. So actually, this is a really great appointment because we've got a manager who's relatively young and is still in that frame of mind where he's a winner and he could leave. I can't imagine Gareth Southgate going back into club football. Whereas if it doesn't work with Tuchel for a couple of years, he will go back into club football, possibly even at Champions League level again. And that's a really big thing for me, I think. I like that.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, he's done it at the top level. And I think the other thing for me, like I mentioned before, there's no other standout candidate. Who else? Eddie Howe is at Newcastle. He's not exactly pulling up trees.
We don't like Eddie Howe over here at Burnley, so we're not having it.
Graham Potter is the other one, but he's been out of work since Chelsea. And he didn't really do very well there either. I know he did great.
I wouldn't have minded Potter, to be honest.
But I think the problem is the expectation. The expectation is to win something. I think if the expectation was just to get out of the group stages, for example. I think you can get away with appointing someone who is a bit of a nobody, and actually, see what they do in terms of, in the next major tournament, and give them perhaps a longer contract. But it was a bit like when Sheffield Wednesday were in League One. We just had to get out of League One, by hook or crook. It didn't really matter how we did it. And, it was, going to some of the games was horrible. And it's like that with England. We're just expected to win every single game at a canter. And when you have that sort of pressure, you can't make any mistakes. I mean, the game against Greece experimented, and it's like Lee Carsley, suddenly now he's gone from an excellent coach at under 21 level to he ain't got a clue what he's doing. Do you know what I mean? And how can that happen in one game? But that's because of the expectations, and we don't allow any experimentation at all.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, it's going to be an interesting one. It really is an interesting one. Excellent. Thank you, James. That was a great summary of our new head coach. To be continued. Let's keep an eye on that one and see how he settles in. But I'm excited. Why not? I'm ready for a change in the England camp. And I think, just going very quickly, actually, to finish off with James's comments about expectations, because the current crop of England players and the talent we have here, it actually doesn't feel like just us being unrealistic with expectations of a trophy. I think we can actually deliver one. And yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said if we lift the World Cup, nobody's going to care. Literally nobody's going to care. Dave, it's quiz time. Come on, finish us off with a good quiz. It is no and never against our opposition. We are currently 5-4 up. 5-4 up. Do you know what, James? I was 4-0. I was 4-0 up, and then our fifth opposition view worked out how to beat me, and they've all followed suit. It suddenly became 4-4, and the pressure was on last week. I took it back to 5-4, but my goodness me, it was by hook or by crook. It was ridiculous. So you're either going to draw our opposition view level, or you're going to be getting us 2 behind. So let's see how we go. Dave, what is this week's quiz? Please don't tell me it's something I should have picked up on listening to this podcast, because I'll cry.
No, it's not. No, there's no clues in there this week, and we've gone slightly different. It's not a year this time; it's a number I'm after.
Oh, come on! I was just getting comfortable with a year.
But before we start, James, you have the option being the guest. Before you hear the question, would you like to go first or second?
I'll go first.
Right. Okay. So I want a quick fire answer from both of you. The question relates.
Oh, what? At the same time or separately?
No. James first, and then you within 5 seconds afterwards.
I was going to say, when it's quick fire, do we have no thinking time here?
Not a lot of thinking time, no.
Oh God, this is making me uncomfortable, James. He's changing the rules.
Well, you're going with your gut. You're going with your gut for a number.
My gut is not that strong.
Number.
I'm just going to throw this. Okay, let's go.
So the player who has made the most appearances combined for Sheffield Wednesday and Burnley since World War II is James O'Connor. He's made the same number of appearances for both clubs in the league. What is that number? How many league appearances has he made for both Sheffield Wednesday and for Burnley?
143.
Natalie?
165.
The correct answer is 139. So James was very close.
I swear on my cat's life, in my head I was going 138. And I was like, when James said first, I was like, oh no, I'm miles away, I'll go higher. And
I have a slight confession that we played for both. And when I did a preview show with another Burnley fan, and I test them on the players that I've played for both, and I can remember talking about James O'Connor and seeing that, because he was one that played. I think there's 3 players that have played more than 100 games for both Wednesday and Burnley. So
Lee Grant was one. I forget who the other one was actually. Ross Wallace.
Ross Wallace, yeah.
Yes, he was the other. Yeah.
So I had a bit of I did some research, and I didn't even know this question was coming up. So
no, you wouldn't.
Did you two have you been shafting me before this game? I think you have, haven't you? Before this preview. So I'm so annoyed. I had 138 in my head, and because if James had said Natalie go first, I would have gone 138. That would have been my.
We'll never know.
And then I know, Dave. I know. Anyway,
it's 5-5.
5-5. God's sake, I'm going to get so much grief from our listeners. 5-5, listeners, I'm sorry. I threw away a 4-0 lead. I got us noses in front and we're back level again. I will try again next time. If blooming Dave Roberts doesn't keep changing the goalposts. That would be useful. I'll get a strategy in place. James, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. You've been a really fantastic guest.
No
do you want to just finish off just by letting our listeners know where they can find out about the Wednesday Till I Die podcast?
Yeah, of course. So, it's like I said, the Wednesday Till I Die podcast on all the major podcasting platforms. We're on YouTube as well. And if you want to find us on the socials, it's at WTID Pod as well. I just want to finish on a stat of my own as well.
Yes,
you mentioned about the last goal, the only goal you scored in 3 is a penalty. Well, we don't know what a penalty is. It's been 519 days since we last got awarded a penalty. So,
no, did you know that, Dave? Has he outstatted you? Excellent. Well
we didn't have a penalty throughout the whole of last season. We haven't been awarded one so far this season. The last one we had was against Peterborough in the playoff second leg. If you want to take it to league games
this weekend, don't you? We're going to give you like 3.
Would you? What? Yeah,
We do that. We're very accommodating to sides that need something against us. We always do it.
We're due a penalty. We're also due a goal from a corner because we haven't had one of them for a long, long time either. So,
I mean, look, it could be a penalty. Prediction.
It could be a penalty and a goal from a corner, and then I will be putting the lottery on tomorrow if that does happen.
You do that. Well, James, we would love to check in with you again in the second half of the season. Have you back for the return fixture at Turf Moor if you want to come with us, see how you're getting along. See how Danny Rowe's doing, whether he's delivering wonderful free-flowing football and you're up that table and pushing for that little promotion, little tease that you wanted just to keep going. But if not, we hope it's going to be a steady season after this weekend. We do hope the Clarence win, but thank you. It's been a real pleasure having you. Listeners, that is all we have time for. Thanks again, obviously, to Statman Dave for giving us all our stats this season. We'll be back next week. Playtime is over. We've had a bit of a break for the international break. We'll be back on Tuesday with the analysis show. We've got a midweek fixture, I think, next week, haven't we, Dave?
We play Hull on Wednesday, so we'll be back to record before then to do a preview for the Hull game.
Yeah, that's fine. I think, listeners, depending on how this week goes, I think if we deliver up another 0-0 bow draw away at Sheffield Wednesday, we'll probably combine the 2 games with one analysis show. But if there's some really great talking points or lots of goals that we can talk about, then we'll bring you a quick show in between the 2. So keep your eyes peeled to social media and turn those notifications on if you haven't already, and we will let you know where we are. And then Dave and I will be back for the next preview show and again before next weekend as well. So it's going to be a busy week at Team Nona Never, and we cannot wait to drag you all along with us. I've been Natalie Bromley. This has been the preview show brought to you by the Nona Never podcast. Until next time. The Nona Never podcast is brought to you in association with the talkSPORT Fan Network. Our host and editor is Natalie Bromley, and the show is produced by Matt Moss. Our resident statistician is Dave Roberts, and our FPL expert is Adam Dennett. The analysis show team is collectively Tom Whittaker, Rich Steele, George Poole, Charlotte Rigby, and Adam Dennett. Our music is provided by George Gaskell, and our newsletter team is headed up by Jamie Smith. If you don't already, you can subscribe to our newsletter by visiting nonanever.substack.com. Thanks as ever go to our partners talkSPORT. We are proud to be associated with the talkSPORT Fan Network.